I decided to stop helping my brother's family after he made a comment about there being no place for losers. That's why I didn't get an invite for Christmas this year. Now, it seems like he's struggling. Honestly, I was looking forward to Christmas this time around. I wasn't scrambling to get everything done at the last minute. For a change, I had already bought gifts for my parents, my brother Jacob, his wife Kelly, and their kids. By the first week of December, I even picked up some extra presents just in case any surprise guests showed up. I don't know why, but I felt like this year was going to be a good one. So I was completely shocked when my mom opened the door and said, "We don't want you here this year," while I stood on the porch with bags of wrapped gifts in both hands. At first I thought it was some weird joke and started to laugh. But then Jacob chimed in from behind her, saying, "This is no place for losers. You're really starting to get on everyone's nerves." I just stood there, staring at my mom, while my dad hovered in the background, looking everywhere but at me, and not saying a word. Even though my mom looked a bit uncomfortable, she didn't say a word to Jacob. Jacob, on the other hand, was completely full of himself. I was hit with a mix of emotions, humiliation, anger, and confusion, but somehow I kept my cool. "Fine, if that's how you feel," I replied with a nod and headed back to my car. As I sat in the driveway staring at the bags of gifts in the passenger seat, something shifted inside me. No room for losers. Tired of me. Where did this come from? I had a hunch Jacob was behind it, but I couldn't figure out why. I had always been generous to him and his family, covering his kids' summer camp fees, school supplies, and even helping with his mortgage when he was in a bind. And now, out of nowhere, I wasn't invited to Christmas. I decided to hold off on leaving for a bit to get some clarity. I turned back toward the door. After dropping the gifts in the car, I returned as if they hadn't expected me back. My parents were still there, whispering to each other. Jacob was acting like nothing was wrong, lounging on the couch and scrolling through his phone. I didn't bother knocking. "What's going on?" I asked as I walked in. "Why am I not welcome at Christmas? What did I do?" Jacob looked up from his phone and smirked, saying, "You really don't see it, do you? You've been slacking off lately. The kids hardly got anything from you this year." I was taken aback. "What are you talking about? I've spent hundreds on gifts for your kids. They have more presents in the car than anyone else. Last year you did more. This year it feels like you don't care. It's honestly embarrassing for us," Jacob said. Finally turning to face me, I looked at my parents hoping they would step in, maybe defend me, or tell Jacob he was out of line. Instead, my mom awkwardly smiled and said, "But you just bought a new car. You found money for that." I was momentarily speechless, unsure of how to respond. "The car is financed," I said, keeping my voice steady. "And even if it weren't, why does buying a car suddenly mean I have to take care of Jacob's kids? They're not my responsibility." Jacob leaned back on the couch and said, "You're the one making the most money," as if that explained everything. "We're family. Families support each other. You've always done that." Kelly, his wife, sat quietly in the corner. When I looked at her, her face was flushed and she was staring at her hands, not saying a word. It felt like she wanted to disappear. I asked, "Is that your logic? Just because I've been generous before, I'm now stuck with this forever? And if I don't, I'm a loser?" Jacob shrugged. "If the shoe fits," he replied. I shook my head and took a step back. Turning to my parents, I said, "You know what? You're right. I don't belong here." Then I looked at Jacob and said, "Enjoy your Christmas and good luck with those gifts, because this loser is done funding your life." Without waiting for a reply, I left. I gripped the steering wheel tightly and drove home in silence, feeling confused. Was I really the bad guy here? For years I had gone out of my way for my family, always helping Jacob and making sure his kids didn't suffer due to his financial issues. And now I was a loser for not doing enough. After being unwelcome at Christmas, I sat in my driveway for a while, staring blankly. My stomach churned when I saw the bag of gifts still in the van. I had spent weeks picking out the perfect things, thinking about what my parents would appreciate and what the kids would love, and for what? To feel like I didn't belong? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This was about more than just Christmas and presents. I had been too blind, or maybe too willing, to see that this had been building up for years. Jacob had always leaned on me for support. He and Kelly faced tough financial challenges at the start of their marriage. Jacob struggled to keep a steady job, and Kelly's part-time work barely covered their essentials, which they thought would only last a little while, just a few $100s here and there. I stepped in to help when they were at risk of eviction, covering some of their rent. Later, when their second child arrived, I pitched in with childcare. What started as a temporary arrangement turned into years of support. Still, Jacob always reached out to me first when he was having a rough day. Honestly, I never hesitated to help because I cared for his kids, not out of obligation. I couldn't bear to see my brother and his family struggle. Looking back, I realized I had created this situation. Jacob became too dependent on me, and what began as gratitude shifted into a sense of entitlement. The breaking point came when I was left out of my family's Christmas celebration. Feeling like I hadn't done enough, I decided it was time to step back. The next morning, I woke up with a clearer mindset. I wouldn't help Jacob anymore, no more being a constant crutch for his shortcomings. He could choose whether or not to give his kids the things I had provided. It wasn't an easy decision. I knew I might lose his financial support and risk my relationship with him, his kids, and even my parents. But I couldn't keep being treated like a cash machine instead of a brother and son. We stopped reaching out to each other, and maybe they got the hint. Still, I should have known Jacob wouldn't take it well. New Year's Eve came and went in complete silence. No texts, no calls, nothing. My parents, Jacob and Kelly, didn't respond. I spent the holidays alone for the first time in years. I didn't expect to hear from them, but it felt strange when midnight came and my phone was still quiet. I thought about calling, but every time I did, Jacob's words echoed in my mind. No place for losers. I had been the one holding everything together for years, and they had the nerve to treat me like I was just a disposable number. If they wanted space, I was more than willing to give it to them. By mid-January, I started to notice a shift. Kelly, who has always been the quiet type and avoided conflict, surprised me one night with a text. It was short and to the point. I'm sorry, I don't agree with what happened. Jacob won't say it, but I thought you should know. I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone, unsure how to respond. It was nice to know that someone in the family saw things clearly, but at the same time, Kelly's apology felt a bit too late, since she hadn't said anything that night. I replied, "Thanks, Kelly, but I can't just move on from this." I didn't mind that she didn't want to discuss the surprise visit. Then, in early February, Jacob showed up at my place out of the blue. I was in the middle of a work meeting when I heard the knock. At first I ignored it, since I wasn't expecting anyone, but the knocking persisted. When I finally opened the door, there was Jacob, looking more upset than I'd ever seen him. He pushed his way in and said, "We needed to talk." I crossed my arms and asked, "What's this about?" He got straight to the point. "You need to stop acting like this and start helping out again." I couldn't help but laugh, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe he was serious. "Helping out? You mean paying for your life?" "I told you I'm done with that." He shot me a glare and said, "You're the one with the money. Do you have any idea how tough things have been for us since you started acting this way? The kids are barely getting by. Kelly is trying her best to hold everything together, but we really need your support." What I heard was just unbelievable. "Are you even hearing yourself right now? You're an adult, Jacob. You have a wife and kids. If you need more cash, go out and earn it. It's not my responsibility to fix your issues." He shot back. "You've always been there for us before. Why are you being so selfish now?" I repeated, "Selfish. You want to talk about selfish? Let's discuss how you lied to our parents about me, turned them against me, and then banned me from Christmas because I didn't spend enough on your kids. And now you're here asking for more. You really have some nerve, Jacob." I raised my hand to cut him off before he could respond. "We're done here. I won't give you another cent, and I don't want to hear from you again until you learn to act like an adult." He shot me a glare and stood there for a moment before quickly leaving. I thought that would be the end of it for a while. Once Jacob stormed out, I figured he'd complain to my parents, but he'd soon realize I wasn't backing down. I was wrong. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I wouldn't have picked up, but something made me answer. "Hello?" a man's voice said. "Is this Michael?" "Yeah. Who's this?" "This is Mark Dawson. I'm a lawyer representing a client who has some concerns about financial matters involving your family. Do you have a moment to talk?" I felt a chill run down my spine. "A lawyer? What financial issue?" In a surprisingly polite tone, he said, "I can't discuss details over the phone, but it relates to the financial support you've provided to your brother, Jacob, and how that support has been used. Would you be willing to come to my office to discuss this?" I was completely taken aback. I had a lot of thoughts racing through my mind, but none of them were good. Did Jacob take out a loan in my name? Was he up to something shady with my details, or was this just a desperate attempt to scare me into giving him more cash? I asked, "Who's your client?" Finally, there was a pause. "I can't share that right now, but I promise this isn't a lawsuit against you. It's more of an investigation." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet. My curiosity got the better of me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just Jacob being his usual self. The next day, I walked into Mark Dawson's office, unsure of what to expect. But as soon as I sat down, he hit me with a shocker. He slid a folder across the desk and said, "Kelly is the client I'm representing." I was taken aback and blinked in disbelief. "Kelly? Why would she need a lawyer?" Mark looked at me seriously, hands folded. "She believes Jacob has been misusing the money you've given him over the years. She suspects he's been hiding funds from both her and you." My stomach dropped. "Hiding money? What do you mean?" He opened the folder to reveal bank statements, receipts, and what looked like screenshots of text messages. She thinks Jacob has been taking your financial support and putting it into a separate account. From what she's found, he might be using that money for gambling and other personal expenses instead of taking care of his family. I stared at the documents in disbelief. So, you're saying that all those times I helped him with bills and school stuff for his kids, that money never actually went to them? Mark nodded gravely. It seems that way. Kelly found this out recently and came to me because she was at a loss. She didn't want to involve you at first, but given the situation, she felt you needed to know. I was stunned. All this time, Jacob had been tricking me, spending money I thought was for his family, on who knows what. Not realizing it sooner left me feeling unsure about whether to be angry, deceived, or just plain foolish. My voice was tight as I asked, "Does Kelly have any proof?" Mark nodded and slid the folder closer to me. Inside was the evidence. I scanned the documents and saw withdrawals from Jacob's account, large sums being transferred to another account in his name, and even transfers from my account to his that matched the times I had helped him out during emergencies. I noticed transactions for fancy dinners, online gambling, and a few hotel stays. Unbelievable. I shook my head and muttered that Kelly was aware of this. She had only recently found out about the second account. Mark explained that she had her suspicions for a while, but didn't have access to his banking details until she came across some bank statements he had carelessly left out. She didn't have solid proof, which is why she reached out to me. I leaned back, trying to process everything. Did she want me to take action? Maybe press charges? Mark shook his head, saying that wasn't the case right now. She was more concerned about her safety and that of the kids, but she thought I should be aware in case Jacob tried to manipulate me again. I let out a bitter laugh. He already did that. He showed up at my place a few days ago, demanding I start helping him again. Mark looked annoyed. That aligns with what Kelly told me. It seems Jacob is feeling the heat now that my financial support has dried up. He might be in even more trouble than Kelly realizes. As I stared at the folder, my mind was racing. Part of me wanted to go to Jacob's house and confront him, but I knew that would only give him satisfaction, since he had already gotten under my skin. I asked, "What's Kelly planning to do?" Mark took a moment before answering. She's weighing her options. She wants to ensure she and the kids are financially secure, and if Jacob's behavior escalates, she might consider separation or other legal steps. I was more impacted by what I heard than I expected. Kelly had always seemed like a kind, loyal person who would stand by Jacob no matter what. It was clear things had taken a turn for the worse. If she was ready to leave, feeling a mix of anger towards Jacob, sadness for Kelly and the kids, and guilt for not realizing how bad it had gotten sooner. I appreciated Mark for his time and stepped out of the office. Strangely enough, I felt a sense of relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying Jacob's burdens, and now that I knew the truth, I wouldn't let him control me again. I couldn't shake off the thoughts of everything I had just learned after leaving the lawyer's office. The gambling, the hidden money, and Kelly plotting her next steps. I felt like I was in the middle of a family drama, straight out of a soap opera. I kept my distance for the next few days, not calling my parents or reaching out to Jacob, but it seemed he didn't appreciate the silence, because one evening, just as I was about to eat dinner, his name popped up on my phone. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. "What do you want, Jacob?" He didn't waste any time. In a strained, almost frantic tone, he said we needed to talk. "You said something to Kelly, didn't you?" I raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," he shouted. "She's been acting strange since Christmas. And now she's talking about lawyers and separation. I know you've been filling her head with ideas." I couldn't help but laugh. "You think I'm the issue? You're the one who lied to her, hid money and blew it on gambling. If she's had enough of your nonsense, that's on you, not me." After a moment, Jacob finally said, "You don't know what you're talking about." I replied, "Oh, I think I do." As my anger surged, "Kelly spilled everything, the hidden account, the gambling, and the cash you've been squandering while I've been busting my butt to help you. You're a joke, Jacob." I cut him off before he could finish his rant, saying, "Here's the deal." I didn't let him respond and just hung up. My hands were trembling, but it felt liberating to finally voice what I'd kept bottled up for years. "You've taken advantage of me for the last time. I'm done helping you. I'm done covering for you. If Kelly decides to leave you, that's on you. And if you try to pull me into this chaos again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you've been up to." The fallout was swift, and the next day Kelly called me. "Has Jacob reached out to you?" she asked cautiously. "Yeah," I replied. "He wasn't happy." "Did something happen?" I confronted him about the gambling and the secret account. After a pause, she said he admitted to some of it, but was still trying to downplay it. "Are you okay?" I asked, even though I could tell she wasn't. "I'm fine," she said, but I could sense her frustration with defending him. The kids deserve better. I knew their situation was bad, but hearing her say that felt like a turning point, hitting me harder than I expected. "Whatever you choose to do, I'm here for you," I said. "Thanks," she replied softly, "and I'm sorry for everything. The way we treated you over Christmas wasn't right." I should have spoken up sooner. We chatted for a bit, and when we hung up, I felt a strange sense of closure. Even though Jacob had messed up our relationship, Kelly and the kids weren't my enemies, and I wouldn't hold it against her if she found the strength to confront him. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jacob wasn't done causing problems. A few weeks later, Kelly sent me a short text that simply read, "We're going today." She told me she was relocating to another state with the kids while Jacob was away on a business trip. I suspected it was just another excuse for her gambling habits. She had packed their things, rented a moving van, and left without informing him, at least not until she had everything legally sorted out. I called her immediately. I couldn't just sit back any longer. She said softly, "I can't keep pretending this is normal. What about everything, even the rent?" I genuinely wanted to know how she was holding up, so I asked. "I was hoping you could help me with that just for a little while." After a brief pause, she replied, "As much as I hate to ask," I cut her off, saying, "Say no more, I'll handle it." So, I ended up helping her and the kids, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was actually doing the right thing, instead of being taken advantage of. When Jacob came home to find the house empty, he understandably lost it and called me to rant about how I had ruined his life and turned Kelly against him. After letting him vent for a bit, I said, "Maybe this wouldn't have happened if you had spent more time being a husband and father, instead of gaming." I wrapped up the conversation with, "But hey, good luck with that." The kids are adjusting well to their new school, and Kelly has landed a stable job, finally feeling in control of her life again. I've heard Jacob still blames everyone but himself, but honestly, that's no longer my concern. If you can call it that, they've found what they deserve and I feel no remorse for anyone. Do you think what I did is right? What could I have done different? I don't know, but I'll be looking for the comments. If anyone have similar stories you know or got any advices, please give. I'll read all your comments. Wow, if you're still here, thanks for listening. We give out free giveaways every week for one lucky subscriber who likes, shares, and subscribed us. Good luck. We post every day. Have a great day ahead.